So the sayings that they have in America, guns don't kill people, people kill people. And it's the same with performance-enhancing drugs. Performance-enhancing drugs don't kill people, people kill people. But in this context, it's they kill themselves because they take them without much research.
In your experimentation, in your research over the years, do you have a no-go list as far as like just cost benefit ratio of drugs? Like if you were to rattle off like a top 10, hey, under really no circumstance other than trying to die a slow, painful death, do you take X drug? Because I'm sure you're familiar with one of your contemporaries, Broderick Chavez, and I used the word side effect once on a podcast with Broderick, and love Broderick, but he chewed me to pieces. He's like, "There's no such thing as side effects. It's just effects. It's just effects." And I was like, "Whoa, dog! Like, dude, I'm just here to have a good time." He's just like, it's just very like, this is what it does. Whether it's positive or negative is up to the eye of the beholder. By your criteria, what would be like a top 10 list, TSN, all time? Don't do it. Just do something else.
So you mean the risk versus reward, right? Where the risk outweighs the
just
reward?
Just not worth it.
DNP, adipotide, most of the SARMs, honestly. Really? But then, because if you compare them to steroids, which have been more investigated and have been used in medical settings and have been FDA approved and have been life-saving medications for thousands of people or millions of people maybe, even if you compare the anabolic potential for the side effects that you get or the negative effects, I think any steroid outperforms any SARM. But of course, on paper, it looks promising because at low dosages, SARMs are more selective in certain cases. So I'd rather look into a short list of things you can use. So my short list would be test, primo, anavar, GH, and insulin. Now, when you hear insulin, you're like, holy shit, Steve is promoting insulin. That's so dangerous. You can literally kill yourself. And that's when you bring it back to performance-enhancing drugs don't kill people. People kill people. So if you use insulin and you're stupid as fuck, when you have no business using insulin, of course you're going to die. So that's Darwinism at its finest, that those people take care of themselves, right? Now, with steroids, it will take a little bit longer. It will take a decade. But if you fuck up insulin, you'll be a little bit dead in 4 hours. But if you use it very smartly, educationally, then you can literally drop your steroid dosages in half, get increased nutrient partitioning and anabolism and fullness and recovery and even performance-enhancing benefits, like real performance-enhancing, by supplementing insulin that otherwise your pancreas would create. And now you're actually healthier in the process. But you can only do that if you consider yourself an athlete and you take this shit as a full-time job where you don't miss meals, you don't miss micronutrients, you check your blood glucose levels, you sleep properly, right? All these little things that you need to do. And then insulin can be very life-saving in the short run and the long run because you literally need less steroids and less growth hormone because everything is now optimized. So that's my short list. Test, primo, anavar, GH, and insulin. And Increlex
now,
and IGF-1, but that's hard to source.
Yeah, so that's an interesting one because I feel like that's a very Southeast Asian specific drug. At least I've only heard of it being sourced effectively in your part of the world. Wouldn't that also too carry with it?
I know where this is coming from. This is coming from Baxter.
No, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'll redact it from the record. But so is there not health concerns? Because now I think we'd be going into the realm of peptides.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how to. I would classify growth hormone, insulin, and Increlex or IGF-1 technically as a peptide, right? Mm-hmm. Which is odd because I feel like there needs to be a lot more resolution in the way we subcategorize. Like I made the mistake earlier of dumping Adderall in with a nootropic, and you're like, hold on, it's meth. Like chill.
Chill.
It's not exactly right. But if you think about peptides, when most people in the industry, or at least even on the fringes, hear peptides, now they're going to think about BPC 157 or thymosin beta 4. But by chemical composition, if that's the right word, GH, IGF, insulin are technically considered the same compound as like family of compounds composition wise
Right.
as BPC 157, CJC,
Right.
TB4, MK6.
Yeah, they're all amino acid based. So you can further diversify into anabolic peptides, growth hormone, insulin, IGF-1, healing peptides, right? TB500, thymosin beta 4, BPC 157, LL37, KPV, right, for the intestinal tract. And then you have nootropic peptides, Semax, Selank, cerebrolysin, but that's actually a combination of 4 different peptides. I mean, if you think that there's a lot of steroids, when you start looking into the peptide realm, there's hundreds. There's hundreds of peptides, and your body produces thousands. And there's many peptides that are left to be explored. And I'm sure as the scientific community starts doing more research, new discoveries will be made. Dr. Adil Khan is very on top of that. Dr. Predoc Sikaric, yeah, good guy. I hope to get him on a podcast soon, but they told me to wait to April. He's busy. He's very busy.
What? No, I'm going to text that motherfucker right now.
Oh, yeah?
He's not that busy. Adil, if you're listening, I'm going to cut this into an Instagram clip and tag him in it and collaborate with him. Adil, relax. You're not that busy.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. That's what his social media manager told me. It's okay. Don't worry.
Oh, give me a break. I'm texting him after this. He's a loser. God, Adil, get over yourself.
So he's pretty on the forefront of what's the latest and the greatest, right? And Dr. Predoc Sikaric from Croatia, he does a lot of research on BPC 157. He's like a hero in the healing space. So we need more guys like that to really push the evidence forward and the technology forward. So growth hormone, insulin, IGF-1, that's just low level bodybuilding drugs. But the real interest is all these new peptides. But many of them don't have much scientific evidence, even less than SARMs. So you can't really do much with that yet.
Is it safe to draw a line between endogenous and exogenous when it comes to safety? Like if you look at the list that the
dose is the poison. So with insulin, of course, how much insulin do you produce per day? Maybe 30 units yourself, and then you supplement with 30 units, and you're fine. Now, if you supplement with 300 units, you're fucking dead. So some compounds exogenously that are synthetic are safer than the stuff you produce endogenously.
Right.
So
do you see, so it's odd to me that, we have a conversation about SARMs and the deleterious effects of SARMs over time, and your intersection with SARMs from a almost like a rehabilitative, like an endocrine rehabilitative standpoint of like, look, I got to unfuck a lot of problems because people are getting sold this false bill of goods that these drugs, these compounds are safer than, the demonized anabolic steroid that they're attempting to replace. But at the same time, you can get them over the counter. And now, we're talking, and primarily, or almost exclusively anecdotally, the emerging research or evidence, let's say at large, about peptides. Do you see a world that evolves to a point where we can go get BPC 157 from the pharmacy and we can no longer purchase SARMs because we have so much evidence that they are so deleterious?
No, I think at one point some SARMs will be FDA approved because they do have some clinical application and they do look promising. What worries me is the people who have access to them so easily. Like with steroids, okay, you have to go through some sort of email and send some Bitcoin and sweat buckets until the package arrives, right? That's not the case with SARMs. SARMs, you can go to an online, use a discount code, put in a credit card, and you literally have it in the mail in 3 days. So this includes an entire group of people who are stupid and use them stupidly. Right? Not that SARMs are terrible. I think they're overconsumed by a large group of people who have no business taking any kind of performance-enhancing drugs because they're too early, right? They train for 1 year or they have their SARMs ready before they start training because it's glorified, it's easily accessible, they don't do the research. It's a demographic that has no business being a part of the fitness industry. Right? Steroids were always hard to get. So you had to earn them because guys like me or you would not tell them where to get it unless you were able to squat and bench and deadlift and look somewhat impressive and earn it in the gym. Like nobody told me when I started training in the gym, like, hey, Steve, there's this world of steroids that you can look into. No, I had to earn it. Nobody talked to me about steroids until I was, pushing against my natty plateau. And then people were like, you know what, Steve, maybe you stop growing like 2 pounds a year. There's these things that you can look into. And I was already looking into it, but nobody talked to me about it. But nowadays, everybody talks about it. So you include a demographic that has no business to take them. And I think with peptides, they just got added to an article in the United States, at least, where the compounding pharmacies and the prescribing physicians are not able to prescribe these drugs because there's no clear safety. And that's true to a certain extent. I mean, there's one human study, literally one human study on BPC 157 and 180 on animal models. So it does make sense. Or you could look at it a different way. Maybe BPC 157 will replace all of these drugs that are now being prescribed and that are being lobbied hard and are highly addictive and have a huge margin. And all the prescribing physicians get a markup. So maybe BPC 157 is not good to replace that entire system that's already present. It's depending how you look at it.
Yeah, I mean, given the Sackler opioid epidemic, it'd be hard to look at that, and it would be hard to even proclaim that to be a tinfoil hat theory. Like that's probably as close to the truth. It's almost like the attempted killing of the electric car. Like there's a lot at stake. Anecdotally, I could open my fridge right now and there's 3 vials of BPC 157.
Same here.
I've done local injections into my shoulder. I've done subcutaneous, and anecdotally, I've seen it do a lot of super interesting things. I had John Francois of Can Labs on the podcast. He talked about some of the mechanisms of angiogenesis, and yeah, it would be hard to think that those things, aren't getting sort of snuffed out by the FDA and in lieu of not toppling an entire pharmaceutical market.
Yeah, exactly. Now, So I think, if you want to be on the forefront, you just got to do your own education. And regardless if something is FDA approved or not, if you feel that the evidence is compelling and you did your due diligence researching, then I'm not against it, whether it's FDA approved or not, pharmaceutical grade or not, or made it homemade or not. Right? But as long as you have the research, you understand exactly the mechanisms. Then I'm not against it because I'm not for SARMs because there's no clear human safety data, but I'm for BPC 157 even though there's no clear human safety data. So you have to diversify. BPC 157 is a sequence of a bioidentical compound, and SARMs are just completely synthetic, even though synthetic drugs have their place. So it's hard to really pinpoint. You have to look at each drug individually and then decide for yourself if that's worth taking or not.